How are you?
I'm
Sorry,
really
I just
good.
got finished with a workout. Looking a bit disheveled.
And did you pre-cool your workout?
I did, yeah. I was in the plunge this morning around 7.
And tell me what about this is a little unusual for most professional athletes are still using the ice bath after their workout, reduce muscle soreness, but you just pre-cooled. Tell me a little bit about how that's working for you.
Oh, yeah, good. I've worked with the same trainer for a long time, guy called Ben Shear. He's pretty knowledgeable about all this stuff, looks into it all. And, if you're in a muscle building phase, you don't want to do the plunge afterwards or directly afterwards. So, sometimes I will do a plunge in the evening, well after all the exercise just for inflammation. But I just feel like mentally, it's much better to do it in the morning. It's tougher, so there's a mental aspect that I like, but also I guess the benefits are that you want some time to let the blood flow and warm your all your organs and all that kind of stuff, and that's where the big benefit comes from what I understand. You would probably know more, obviously.
Well, your experience is a little bit different than mine because, I'm a professional thinker. I'm a faculty member, and everything about my identity is around my brain. But you got to play, 4 rounds of golf in a weekend and win a tournament. And I think it's a little bit different because when you're in muscle building, when you're training, pre-cooling, maybe that makes a lot of sense. But do you ever use your ice bath for recovery when you're in the middle of a competition?
I have done, yes. Yeah, I have done. Certainly, we're fortunate this year that the PGA Tour have like pretty much a moving facility that has cold plunges, has sauna, infrared sauna. So we have access to that, and usually, yeah, after the end of a round, you're walking about 8 or 9 miles, string around, and at my age, 46, my back isn't always in the greatest place after doing all that walking and then the hips moving. So I do it occasionally after the round. But when I'm home, like a week like today, it's so much easier because it's right there. I have my gym here at the house. I can do it before. So it's a timing issue more than anything. But I suppose that on tour, I could do it early as well.
I'd be really curious about how that works out for you because, everybody tells me, Luke, I don't get it. Everybody tells me that you're old. And I suppose, they have a point.
Well,
Professional athletes, right? But you
relative.
look
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I've also been told that you're the captain for the European team of the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I was captain last year in Rome. We were successful, and as a result, they wanted me to do 2 more years. So it's in New York next year,
Did the younger
Long
guys ever
Island.
ask for your advice?
Yeah, in terms of, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. And I try to talk with a lot of the guys. More importantly, just to create some communication, some trust there. So yeah, we're always kind of chatting, and yeah, I think that's what's interesting about the Ryder Cup is we play individually, most weeks, but the Ryder Cup is a team event, so it's one area when you're going to have to put some of your egos and bring them all into a team room, right? So there's some certain yeah interesting aspects to that and how you do that.
What do you tell them about how your routine has changed from when you were a kid to where you are now?
Well, routines are important. I think when I was at the top of my game back in 2011, had a very planned, orientated mindset. I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what I was going to do each day, had a plan for it. And I really was good about writing down that stuff, writing down what I did well. I was always enforcing the mentality, the mindset of the good things. The bad things were just opportunities to learn. And, I think just going through the processes of that and not focusing too much on the end result was when I was at my best.
Was there a time when you discovered cold plunging?
To be honest, actually, well, I had an experience with my brother a long time ago. My brother is 6 years older than me. He had some candida
Uh-huh.
when he was like 17, 18, and he did about 2 years of just cold ice baths, and it really helped him. It really felt like he got a lot better. My parents were also members of a health club that had a cold plunge, and I would go in the evenings with my dad occasionally, and we would do the cold plunge. And you always, even at that age, you felt so invigorated, afterwards that you felt like just instinctively that it was good for you. So I didn't really know anything scientifically back then. I certainly didn't do it regularly or as a routine, but I certainly had some little experiences, quite some time ago.
Then there must have been a moment when you said, yeah, I really need a Morozko. Like I need to do this every day.
Well, it's certainly been talked about a lot lately. You look at all kinds of athletes. I was certainly around a lot of different athletes and different sports, and they definitely. It seems like everyone uses that, especially in the last few years. So it's. I think we are in an age of technology where we understand, what's good, what works, what improves us, and certainly, I just felt like it was time to invest, in that myself and have one at my house. So very happy with it, and yeah, I can definitely see the benefits.
I really did write down some questions here, Luke, when I was thinking about this interview. I mean, it's great to just talk with you, but a couple of things came up that I wanted to ask you about. You alluded to one earlier. You were talking about the mental sharpness, like the psychologically. What does an ice bath do for you?
Well, I think everyone goes through kind of life and has tough situations, right? And some people kind of shy away from them, and some people kind of walk towards those. I've certainly everyone who watches golf or watches athletes look at us like, we're just these machines, but we have feelings, we have anxieties, we feel nerves. But what's good about it is we always kind of walk towards those. They're the best to, like Scotty Scheffler, who just won the Masters. Every one of those people playing the last round at Augusta, teeing off with a chance to win, would have been extremely nervous. And but it's walking towards those, right? And so I feel like with an ice bath, it's something I don't really look forward to. It's something that is difficult. It's not exactly that fun. So I see it like as a mental, like it gives you mentally some growth there. Walking towards it, and obviously there are health benefits too, but mentally, I feel like whenever you can walk towards something that's really difficult and go through it, then you become stronger. Like if I woke up at 6:30 in the morning every day and looked forward to that cold plunge, I don't think I'd probably get quite the same benefits. But because it's difficult, because you have to push yourself, you have to, uh, it's. I think there's some added benefit there for sure.
Well, there's a reason I can't stand golf, and it's because I'm not a consistent person. In golf, every mistake gets written down on a card. And for me, I'm such an experimentalist. I want to make a lot of mistakes and then discover new things. And it's just not the way golf works. So,
Well, you could flip it, the fact that you fail a lot in golf. You always make mistakes. So there's always learning opportunities. I mean, that's one way to look at it. That's the hard thing about golf. Even the best, like Tiger Woods, he was only winning, I don't know, 20% of his tournaments, 25%, at his peak. So he's losing a lot more than he's winning. It's a bit like baseball, good
well,
home
you're
runs is.
reframing it for me.
I'm reframing it, so
Right.
I'm trying to get you interested in it.
It's working. what do you do to maintain that consistency that I'm telling myself I don't have, but it seems like I could work on?
Well, the problem with golf is it takes up a lot of time. So, you need to do work on it a lot. And that's why the great players, why they're there. They've worked hard on it. But again, mentally, I think the guys, there's a lot of guys physically out there that are just as good as, the top players, but mentally they just can't quite overcome some of those hurdles. So yeah, again, I think it's just going through what you can control, what you can't control, those mental processes, those physical processes. How do you approach every day with the kind of mindset of how I can be just a little bit better? And I think rewarding the good again is something that a lot of pros wouldn't do. A lot of amateurs certainly don't do. But it beats you up, so you have to kind of really lean into what you're doing well, and keep building what I call the mental canyon up there with the good stuff that you do. The bad stuff is just, again, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to figure out how to work on that. But the good stuff, that's the most important thing.
Luke, for a second there, I thought you were talking about running a business because all of that ports
Sure, it's
into,
very similar parallels, yeah.
yep. What I think a lot of people in business, I mean, they're never going to attain the level of accomplishment in golf or in sport, but they still compete. And so they still think about that competitive mindset of continuous improvement. How do I learn from the mistakes? And I think they're going to want to know what I'm about to ask you. What separates people who are very, very good from the people who are great?
You got to have a love for what you do. First of all, I think you have to really immerse yourself in that. For me, again, I'll go back to repeating myself a little bit. It was always about um, having good plans, having good people around you, feeling very motivated to want to improve just a little bit, not getting too depressed when things don't go right, and using those things as a fuel to kind of get better. You lose a lot in golf, but if you have the right attitude to know that that's a learning experience, and where you can grow from, then I think that's what kind of separates the good from the great. And that's golf, that's every sport, that's business. I think that's life really in general.
There was an article I just saw the other day. Gary Player, I guess, is 88 years old. And he says what keeps him young is ice baths. And I'm like, well, this is, a lucky coincidence. And it reminded me to ask you, what about outside your life as an athlete?
Well, I grew up when my parents were very, very concerned, very concentrate a lot on wanting to have. I have two brothers and a sister, but all of us to kind of have what they would call balanced lives, other interests rather than 24/7 golf or 24/7, whatever your main interest or is. So, there was a reason why I came to the US. They really wanted me to continue my education, but continue on my sport that I loved, and give myself a chance to be a professional. You can't really do that in the UK. So, again, I think I mean, I don't know if you know much about Scotty Scheffler, but he seems like golf is, he's third or fourth on his priority list, and it gives him some grounding because of that. Family is really important. He's just about to become a dad. He's a very faithful guy. He believes in Jesus, and those things kind of ground him rather than the highs and lows of golf. So, again, I think having some balance in your life. I have three daughters. That's a lot of my success came, once my first daughter was born, and kind of gave me some perspective about what's important. And I think that's, not to be overlooked. So, again, we all want to do as good as we can in everything we do, but I think you have to have some balance, some fun, get away from some of those things occasionally, and just lead what I would call a somewhat balanced life.
Do your kids ever get curious about the ice bath?
Oh yeah, my two of my kids have gone in. It's a little bit of a competition for them. So they definitely when it first arrived more so, and my youngest got in and she stayed in for a minute the other day, so she's getting better and better.
I will.
She's 9.
Oh, that's a great age. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of brown fat in there. She's very curious about what you're doing and she's open to new experiences. That's terrific.
yeah. Again, just curious minds, aren't they, children?
Okay. But what about your wife?
She's been in a couple times. She's definitely, I think the mental part for her is even more difficult than for me. So I think she will continue to do it. She loves anything that's kind of gives you a health benefit. She works out. She's fit. She's gotten lately into like red light. And she does some of that. So, I think the more she understands the benefits, the more she'll want to do it.
Well, I'm gathering data, Luke. So you're now enlisted in, my impromptu research program because I had an experience. I wrote an article about it. It was me and AJ. We've been dating for a long time, and boy, we were in a big argument. But then when we got in, it was a photo shoot. We got in the ice bath together and we were holding hands and we were breathing together and we were looking into one another's eyes, and all the resentments of the argument just melted away. And it felt like we fell in love. So I had to go look this up, and oxytocin, vasopressin, dopamine, testosterone, like all of these wonderful neurochemicals are stimulated when you're in the ice bath. So the research question, have you and your wife ever done it together?
We have not, no, but yeah, it might take some, persuading.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the Morozko is that the one I have is certainly big enough to fit both of us.
That's
So
the idea. Yep.
I'll work on that, Thomas.
That sounds like a good idea. I mean, I don't think AJ would have done it with me if it weren't like my daughter was right there with the camera saying, okay, you guys got to go now. But after about 3 minutes, we're making out in the ice bath, and my daughter's like, cut, you're done.
All right. Whatever works.
Right? Something to keep in mind. Right?
Yeah.
Is it, let me pause for a second. When I talk to people who have a lot of a media experience, people who are used to talking to reporters, you guys are magnificent. Like there's, 3 or 4 wonderful soundbite clips that we can pull out of this interview and that I think people are going to appreciate. And so it's very easy to interview you. But are there things that you want to ask me? Because often we throw out this sort of interview thing and we just have a conversation about
Yeah.
what's on your mind.
Well, obviously, yeah, we've talked a little bit about the benefits doing it for workouts. I wouldn't mind going into a little bit about that. But the other thing I would ask, occasionally, you do get a sickness or feel run down, or you have a cold, or and I want to know what you think the protocols are. That I've heard different things like, if your body's already under stress from fighting something, that you probably shouldn't stress it any further, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to kind of hear your views.
That's a great question. There are times when I feel like I don't want to do the ice bath, not because I'm run down or I lack energy. The ice bath is always good for like, perking up my energy. But maybe I'll get a tickle in my throat, or maybe I have a sinus infection, or I feel
Yeah.
something coming on. And I'm like, no, I should do chicken soup. And then there's that little voice in my head that says, but give it a try. How do you know? Just do a minute, just do 15 seconds. And it has always been a good experience. So I'll fire up the chicken soup and then I'll get in the Morozko. And sure enough, it brings inflammation down. It drains my sinuses. The joints feel better. Now, I don't have a scientific study on myself, but it is true that studies show a boost to your immune system from acute, brief cold water immersion. So there might be something going on there, that at the early onset of a cold or an infection, that little boost that the ice bath can give is a good thing. I wish that I could give you more reliable advice, but if I were headed for a big presentation, a conference, something that I wanted to make sure I was in top shape for when I was starting to feel maybe it's a cough or something coming on, yeah, I'd be right in my forge. And that has worked well for me. Have you tried it?
I haven't really, I haven't kind of had any sickness since I've had the ice bath. So yeah, I haven't really tried it, to be
It's
honest.
the same thing. It's not that I haven't had any sickness. Like there's been moments when I've felt something coming on, but I've never really been down for a couple or 3 days where I had a fever, where I can't catch COVID. I've been tested 9 times. I've never had it, and because the university, was constant mandatory testing, saliva testing, antibody testing, and I just can't catch that damn. Show me what doorknob to lick. And so this is.
I had to get tested many, many, many
I'll
times
bet.
myself with the PGA Tour and European Tour, and I caught it. I had a positive test once, but it really wasn't too bad. So fortunately, yeah, I felt like I've had flu that was quite a bit worse. So
Yep. But this is just me. I don't want to judge anybody else's experience. I know that there is a relationship between my immune system and my cold exposure, and it shows up in a
of
lot
course,
of extreme cases. I mean, you and I are healthy, and we're just trying to avoid infection. But people who suffer from multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, autoimmune disorders, they find a benefit from a regular practice of ice baths. And that tells me that there's a relationship between the immune system and the cold exposure that's probably beneficial.
good.
Uh, Other questions about your experience? And I want to get into what some other athletes have told me when we're ready.
Um, I mean, is there an amount of time per week that you recommend? Is there a certain temperature of the ice water plunge that you recommend? That'd be
I'm so
interesting to
glad.
know, or
Yeah, those are,
scientifically
yep.
proven, I suppose.
You don't need to go down to 33, 34 degrees. I mean, the Morozko is meant to make ice. And that's because that's what I wanted. When Jason and I were inventing it, we're like, it's got to have ice, which is a lot harder to build, but it was the experience that we were looking for. And you don't need that for the metabolic benefits or for the anabolic benefits to boost your testosterone, but I do think I need it for the mental benefits, because if I'm looking down at that water and there's no ice in it, it doesn't scare me. And that feeling of accomplishing something really that I didn't want to do, that's the feeling, that's the psychological resilience that I'm looking for when I get in. So I go 33, 34 degrees with ice floating on top of the water, but I don't stay in very long. You know, I did 2.5 minutes yesterday, which is close to my minimum, but I shoot for 2 to 4 every time I'm in. I get plenty cold. I do a little workout afterwards. I feel that cold for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. I have seen other athletes, because there's a mentality, especially in what they call the contact sports. Football is a one, but MMA, boxing, that kind of thing. There's a mentality that you want to shut out the pain, and you want to do things that are hard, and more must be better. So some guys will go in, they're trying to get ready for the fight or for the game, and they'll really do too much. just like you wouldn't do a big, heavy weightlifting workout, the night before your tournament, because you don't want to go in there depleted and sore. Don't stress your mitochondria by doing a 10 or 12-minute ice bath right before the big game. And so, although the mentality of shutting out the pain is there, and these are super tough guys, I tell them, go easy on yourself in the days leading up to your competition. Allow your mitochondria to come back so you have all the energy that you need for what you're about to do. And I think for some of them, it's kind of counterintuitive. What's your reaction?
No, yeah, I think I mean for me, I'm usually doing 3 to 4 minutes 4 or 5 times a week. Again, I'm much better in a routine when I'm home. It's a lot easier. I know my schedule when I'm on the road. There's different media requests. There's different, you're playing at different times. It's a little bit harder to have that constant routine. But when I'm home, that's kind of what I do. I do it, first thing, 3 or 4 minutes, pretty cold. And as you said, it takes me about 30, 45 minutes. I usually have a coffee straight after. That helps me warm up just a little bit and put on a hoodie. And then probably 45, 50 minutes afterwards, I'm in the gym getting a workout in.
When you're golfing, uh, do you feel like you're super sensitive? Let me see if I can explain what I mean. There's the wind, there's the moisture on the grass. There's all the little things that are going on in your swing. Do you feel like you're attuned to all of those things when you're really playing well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I've always been a pretty what would call someone that had good course management, that knew how to play the game, knew where to miss it the right place, had a good understanding of my game, my strengths, and kind of played towards those. So that's certainly been a strength of mine.
Okay. But then when you're getting in the ice bath, do you maintain that same sensitivity, or do you feel like you shut yourself down to defend yourself against the cold? Do you let it come in, or do you, kind of protect yourself?
Well, the first 15, 20 seconds, it's kind of a shock, isn't it? And then you sort of get into a routine of, you know, calming down your breath, using breath to kind of get used to the temperature. And then I just try to use it almost like a meditation. I'm just trying to really think about my breath, think about my surroundings, and yeah, sometimes I'll put a song on my phone. That way you kind of know how long it is. I always check the song is 4 minutes long, and when it's done, then I like kind of go under for the last 10 seconds, immerse my head, and then I kind of jump out and I'm kind of ready for the day.
In these ways, Luke, you're very typical. I mean, this is a routine. It sounds like you're right in the sweet spot. And a lot of people who are regular customers do the exact same thing. Then the last question is, does that ever port over into your competitive life where you're like, I'm controlling my breathing now. I'm gonna enter that meditative state now.
Yeah, I think we live in a very busy world, don't we? So anytime you can grab a few minutes here and there and take some time to, yeah, just kind of, I think there's certainly those benefits from meditating and getting away from the busyness that the life, getting away from your phone, getting away from, and that's a good opportunity. That's a great time early on in the morning when you've just woken up. You're having to not only battle the effects of the cold on your body, but try and stabilize your mind in a way that gets you ready for the day.
I feel the same way. I don't think it's going to help my golf game in the least to talk to you about it, but I feel something like we have something in common how we do the ice bath now. This has been really helpful for me. It's been a pleasure, Luke.